Blessings and welcome everyone. Just a reminder before we begin. Your rising sign horoscope will give you additional clarity as to how a great deal of your sun sign horoscope may show up, and your moon sign horoscope will give you the less prominent side story that'll also be playing out for this 2-week period. Remember, horoscopes serve best when observed, like a weather or traffic report. You have influence over all outcomes with your thoughts, actions, choices, and deeds. Use the information that presents to help you make the highest choices for the highest outcomes. If you wish to schedule any of my services or like access to more content via my Patreon, follow the links below or go to my website, integrativemysticism.com. Blessings everyone, it's time for another installment of New Light Astrology and Evolving Field, where we talk about the energetic shifts that are occurring throughout the planet as spurred and contributed by various astrological aspects that are going on this week, as well as what the long-standing shifts that are going to be with us going forward are as we continue through this collective shift in consciousness, how we are progressing through this conscious evolution process. And one of the things I want to remind everyone is that even though we are talking about something in a weekly kind of format, this is very quantum. This is something that has been already kind of going on. We're just going to see this sinking in to the field of everybody between the 22nd and the 1st of March. But this is something that's carrying on and getting stronger as we go through the 22nd through the 1st and beyond. We'll just put it that way. This is not something that's here one week and gone the next. And the reason I want to stress that is because what we're going to be talking about in this episode is very much focusing on things that have lied dormant, things that have lied hidden, and things that ultimately are getting brought up because they can be bypassed no more. That is a big theme, but we also have a lot of collective empowerment going on, a lot of restructuring of the mental bodies and energy bodies, doing this big purge of what holds people in a lower state of consciousness, but it is a very intense week. And what I always recommend when it comes to these kinds of things is lean in. All right. If anything, the worst thing you can do is continue to try and hide from what comes up. And some of us have already gotten a bit of a taste of what this might feel like. It's very, very interesting, the second half of this last week, the week of the 15th, because those of us born between 1983 and 1985, that very small age group, have already been having a similar aspect play out in our astrology charts, and that is the North Node in Gemini transiting and conjunct our natal Chiron. So, it's like North Node. We're talking about the focus on the biggest challenges, biggest rewards, what your soul is here to learn and evolve through. And with Chiron, of course, we are talking about the lessons that come about from clearing and removing distortion and discord in the field, possibly things that go into old conditioning or wounding. And so some of you, again, if you're part of my age group, you've already been kind of going through a bit of this, but this is something that is actually going to be happening collectively through various other astrological aspects and energies flowing through the field as well. So it's not about any one particular astrology aspect. And if you might have a tendency to just kind of get hooked or fixate on that, please don't, because it's a much more nuanced and much more expansive topic of conversation than that. Okay, I figured I would throw it out there for anyone who's feeling like, wait, am I already going through this? Well, if you're born between 1983 and 1985, you probably already started. Yeah. That being said, I do want to remind everyone that your horoscopes are up, and you can check those out on my main channel page by clicking on my avatar beneath this video. And you can, of course, just go to the playlists menu or just scroll down. You'll find them all there. And if you ever want to get a session with me, you can go to my website, integrativemysticism.com. And if you'd like to have access to my live presentations and do Q&As and all kinds of stuff like that, I do that on Tuesdays and Fridays. You might want to check out my Patreon. Again, follow the links down below. So this week, even in the horoscopes, we talked a little bit about this Mars in Taurus trine to Pluto in Capricorn, which is exact on Wednesday, but actually really turns on and starts up on Tuesday. And this runs from about midday Tuesday all the way through Friday, Saturday, depending on where you live in the world. Mars and Pluto, just to reiterate, focus on solutions and finalization and clearing. It's the rip a band-aid off aspect that we talked about in the horoscopes. Now, collectively, this is a situation that is going to bring everyone to a space where they have to face something that they know they need to actually be comfortable with releasing, that maybe they have been taking far too much time to hold on to, treat, coddle, avoid, deny, because Mars trine to Pluto is very much in the vibe of this February, right? Divine Mother, Gaia, Source, Great Spirit going, everyone level up now for the love of goodness. Stop indulging yourself with the old detritus and the old sickness. And this energy is going to be not necessarily, it doesn't have to necessarily be triggering or a call out or anything like that, but it is going to create a lot of final moments in situations that have been dragged out for far too long. This is, however, a trine, so it is a harmonious or towards the highest interest of all concerned kind of energy. And so it's kind of pushing through something, facing a fear, facing some kind of maybe even wounding that one has allowed to harden into character in order to be cleared. When it comes to external situations, we may also be facing things that require us to allow for a solution that does not indulge maybe a bit of wounding, a bit of conditioning, maybe even allow for solutions that go against the sensibilities of others, because this is happening in such a way where it's a complete, again, it's neutral for the highest good and the greater good. It is an energy form that is overwhelmingly positive, but it's very much from a higher kind of perspective. It does not indulge any of the lower self, right, the conditioned adult self sensibilities. I do see that this might, yes, be presenting some challenges, especially when it comes to units, families, groups, or even entire trends, markets, and fields that might not necessarily be keeping up with the energy flow, holding on to the past, or continuing to create or co-create more personal and collective toxicity, or empowering any kind of dysfunctional behaviors, unhealthy narratives, and things like that. And so it's an I don't care, get better now kind of energy that, again, it depending on the level of consciousness of the individual going through this, we're all going through it collectively, is either going to feel very, 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 very positive, very, very good, at least towards the second half of it, or it's going to present to you something that you have to face, and you have to face the part of yourself that may actually be prolonging a shadowy circumstance for whatever reason. And it does not really listen to justifications or excuses, because highest interest of all concerned isn't about that. And so there's a huge break going on. It's a break off from the toxic. It's like, okay, this shelf is falling. You really want to get on this. You really want to get on this as this goes through. It's not something that anyone really has to suffer, unless they choose to draw it out or take it too slowly. And I know we talked about that a bit in the horoscopes, but I wanted to stress that again because it's a big week. On Thursday, we have the Sun in Pisces, trine to Uranus in Taurus. Not trine, excuse me, sextile. The Sun in Pisces, sextile to Uranus in Taurus. And a sextile is an aspect where one energy from a sign reaches over and lends assistance to another celestial body in a compatible, or I guess you could say energetically resonant kind of sign. And so Pisces to Taurus, there's a good flow there. We've got that earth and water elemental energy supporting one another. Now the sun is bringing in a very strong opportunity for a break to get out of a situation that has become a familiar but oppressive structure, or a box that maybe either was imposed upon you or self-imposed. And with the sun sextile to Uranus, it's a nice salve kind of energy, because what it does is that it eases a transition, it eases a revolution, it eases an alteration of course that is already in motion. Uranus in Taurus has been breaking apart a lot of structures, destroying the ability for familiar patterns, as well as maybe old routines and old subconscious flows and cycles to be able to create or co-create more, right? Because we are going through this where everyone is on a very multidimensional level having to learn how to walk and live in their mastery, where they can be in the now, right? Stay in that natural flow and work in a way where they are, of course, working with that heart coherence and living in a way that is conscious and improvisational. And a lot of people, as I've said before in other videos, did not learn how to do that. You know, a lot of people were conditioned to learn more about patterns and copy patterns and strategies versus learn about themselves and their own divinity and their own, you know, unique expression of source. The sun sextile to Uranus is coming in as a salve to help ease a lot of that struggle. It's coming in to actually take a lot of the bite and the grit out of it, and also activating a lot of the, maybe let's just say the veiled self, to be able to turn on all kinds of different abilities, all kinds of heart openings, so that people can actually feel a greater expanse of their own energy fields, start to enjoy a little bit more of this freedom break that is actually going on, even though it may feel unpleasant. The sun sextile to Uranus is also giving the support needed to get out of a situation that maybe actually is kind of in a bit of a Groundhog Day or Pleasantville kind of illusion box and trap. On Friday, we have another long aspect starting up, and it actually runs from Friday the 26th all the way about the 1st or 2nd of March, so Monday, Tuesday, and that is Jupiter trine to Gemini. Well, it's trying to the North Node in Gemini. That's what I mean to say. And with Jupiter in Aquarius, right, that aspect of the divine ascended masculine that is the cultivator, the provider, the mover, yes, to a certain degree, but also one that is actually contributing whatever abundance, whatever energy, whatever support is needed to go through that experience of getting one back on one's true path, is going to be drawing in people and abundance to actually stay on that path. Now, the North Node in Gemini is all about seeing the map, seeing the road that you are on, not just for 2021, but understanding the higher self's priority, understanding the road, the map that you're on, the reason you incarnated in the first place, and gaining awareness for not only all of the lessons that are getting presented, but also the biggest creations that you might say your higher self, your multidimensional self, your I am presence, your oversoul, future self, what your ascended self, what your highest aspect has already achieved. And with Jupiter trine to the North Node, we're actually going to be not only having those avenues further illuminated, but we are actually finding that the souls that belong on that path with us, because they're already naturally on that path, right? We don't go and recruit them. We don't go and convert them. We don't go and, create a hashtag about it. It's actually a natural organic quantum experience. Jupiter trine to the North Node is bringing everyone together, and this is going to do some sifting. It's going to do some filtering, because what's going to happen is you're going to find that, yes, if there are people that are already there and already are ready and raring to go, those of you who are, have precognition, probably already can tell, and I'm talking about real precognition. We're not talking about projecting emotions into it, but, again, clear sight precognition. Yeah, it's going to start pulling people on that team together, right? Assembling that team. It may, yes, replace some people in your life, however, especially if there have been situations where maybe you've been trying to get something to happen. It's not going to happen. You're trying to make this person be this thing, or they're trying to keep a seat on that boat, or you've got a stowaway or something. Yeah, we're going to be doing some swapping out. So it's important to keep an open mind. So let's talk about what's going on here with the cards. As you know, I always draw cards to also give some context in what is beginning this week and amping up as we go through. So we have the King of Swords reversed, the Six of Wands reversed, and the King of Cups. And I want to stress to everybody that, remember, the cards are just here to assist in the articulation of the message, and reversals are just an expansion of the vocabulary of the cards, right? It's kind of an amateur mistake to assume that, just because you see a reversed, it needs to have negativity and triggers projected all over it, so don't do that. This week, and I want to give a shout out to Valdis. He's a brother of mine. He's kind of a part of my soul group. He gave a perfect 2-word summation of what is going on in such a big way after I took 10 minutes to explain it on the Patreon Live. This week we have an empathic firewall sort of thing going on when you think about a firewall with like the internet and whatnot. So there's this empathic firewall that is coming through each and every one of us and coming through the planet, which is kind of changing the way that we feel and communicate energy, being to being. So a lot of empaths, if you're an empath, we've all been kind of going through this restructuring of how, not necessarily how sensitive we are, but how our fields react to different energetic stimuli. This empathic firewall is actually allowing for sovereignty of the energy bodies by not taking on the impact of the energies being emitted into the space the way that it used to before. You're still reading the information. You're still feeling and reading into those emotions. You're getting a sense of what's going on there. But the ability to have the let's just say the impact of an emotional, expression or an emotional code or an emotional vibration move from person to person, it doesn't work the same way. It does not drain your energy. It does not take you into a space where you absorb or embody the energies that are coming through. And this is ultimately great across the board because it's like, okay, I can actually read and understand something without having to live it or be put through it, even in a microdose, which is really, really good. This is a big part of a big break from attachment issues that have been maybe way too present on the planet, and also a huge assistance when it comes to the breaking down of the co-creation of distortion, because in a lot of cases, when people are taking on emotions and they don't know where they're coming from, it's throwing them off. They're picking up at a crowd, you're walking through the mall, or, you got your friend on the phone or whatever. it can really throw off your sovereignty if you're not working with it anyway. It can really throw off your sovereignty if you are, too susceptible to that. And so this is also an assistance for everyone to get away from having to deal with these intentional or unintentional psychic assaults and empathic assaults that, would be going on the more, let's just say, negative or distorted frequencies or wavelengths there. That doesn't mean that you're becoming numb. I don't want anyone to think that they're becoming numb or that empaths are suddenly just not empaths anymore. That's not what I'm talking about. But the impact is getting turned way, way, way down, right? And that's going to be something that gets increasingly more evident as we go through this week and March. But we're also seeing the stickiness come to a stop. And that's going to be, again, even more evident in March. Be careful. There may be some people that need assistance with this, especially if maybe their whole lifestyle was kind of built around, depending on the stickiness, depending on the empaths, depending on people to, kind of do the emotional sorting for them, because they're definitely going to be feeling much more isolated, and until they actually go through their own lessons instead of depend on people to carry them through them. So that's going to be a big part of this week going forward as well. This is actually a part of this big mental body clearing and restructuring that is actually also eliminating mind swaying and influencing on a quantum level. When you are in a situation where your feelings and your thoughts are coming through your own divine connection, your own divine source, and you're not having it infringed upon by what other people are emitting into the atmosphere, whether they know they are or not. More people know they're doing it than not. You're going to actually be able to, you're able to stand not only in more power in that way, but even correct and resolve whatever atmospheric issues might be sort of, getting put out there by somebody else. Now, it's not about controlling anyone. If anything, this is actually a reversal of a lot of dynamics in the atmosphere that allowed for things like hypnotic suggestion, mental emotional fixations, a lot of unraveling of that going on, mental control, that kind of thing. That's not really going to be possible, and that's something that is, again, that dismantling and unraveling of, let's just say, the support for that, atmospherically, energetically, spiritually, is already dissolving right now, and it's clearing throughout the end of February, throughout all of March, and then it just kind of breaks off as we go forward from there. This is going to really make for a lot of spiritual shifts, I think, as well, especially for anyone who's still maybe operating with an attempt to maybe send non-consensual mental messages or do any kind of spiritual control of any kind, or any kind of workings of that variety. It's kind of like you're taking the components or the atmospheric quality out of the planet that would even allow it to leave that person's field. And so a lot of people are going to be feeling a lot safer, but also at the same time a lot more free and a lot more clear and clean. We also have a reversal of patterns and energy forms on the subconscious that removes subconscious and mental and cognitive blocks. This is going to be where the controls on the internal, from the subconscious, from the lower levels, from the stuff that you're not working on, are getting revealed to be released. You might wonder what is coming up when this happens. There could be a lot of signals, a lot of triggers that go on, especially through the next 2.5 weeks, that are kind of pointing out things that have been subconsciously running, a lot of your decisions, a lot of your expressions of self that need to go. And you might think, well, I thought I was over that because I wasn't exposed to that. Believe me. You might not have been exposed to something that challenged you in that way for a very long time, but you still might not necessarily have that mastered. And so over the course of this next 2.5 weeks and going forward, everyone is going to be going through this sort of power leveling experience together. And because there's this release of a lot of the, I guess you could say, emotional pollution that maybe unawakened people or people who are just not careful and not mindful with how they're doing things are throwing that out into the world, it's a lot better an atmosphere for that to occur. But you're going to have to face a lot of those fears and face a lot of those subconscious patterns, subconscious blocks, because it's taking the space of a higher aspect of yourself, whether it is a higher aspect of yourself that actually resonates to a more abundant, more creative, more loving, more peaceful, or more talented expression of your higher self, your multidimensional self in form. That, of course, is going to be on a situation-to-situation basis, but there's no more skipping all of this. And this actually inspired me to make another video about, healthy horoscopes and when, readings are healthy and not healthy, because, a lot of people, even in the spiritual community, spent a lot of time kind of copying notes and copying and pasting the spark notes and things like that. And whenever they have to get to the final and they don't have access to a reader to process things for them or do things for them, they kind of have to go back to square one. Well, we are all going through a situation where we have to face certain areas where we might have done that at some point. We might have been very sophisticated in our ways of setting up our life to not have to face aspects of self, but this is saying, look, you still can't carry this forward. And so, again, it's all powerful, it's all healing, it's all beautiful, it's all wonderful, but it might be a weird experience for people who maybe built a lifestyle that was not interested in that, or maybe in a manipulative way was trying to do something in another way. The Divine Heart expansion, amplification is also, again, purging more of that conditioned adult self that needs to go, right? So we can have the divine spark inner child and the ascended future self be all that's here in form. And so this is ultimately the start where the wheel starts to turn a lot faster. We're shifting into 5th gear as we go through the end of February, beginning of March. But I feel very much that this is sort of like, Mom, Gaia, the planet herself, putting everyone through their therapy her way as she knows you. And remember, it's important to understand that, your body, is made of the planet. The planet knows you. Gaia knows you. She knows you. She's Mom. She's going to assist you whenever you want assistance, but you have to be willing to go through it. You can't, I definitely do not recommend getting upset, trying to shut it off, trying to hide. The amount of spaces where one could go for, shelter, short answers, and shadows to prolong a dysfunctional way of beingness is shrinking. That habitat is going away more and more and more and more and more as we continue, especially up until the equinox. It's going to be accelerating quite a bit. So really lean into this and allow more of that divinity to step forward. So that is what I've got for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because I appreciate it. And should you ever want to get a session with me, you can go on ahead to my website. It's integrativemysticism.com.